Whether it will be permitted for me to do as other writers have done, and to invoke the Muses, I strongly doubt. Rather, I believe it will be pointless. They would not appear and manifest themselves to me, however much I call them to my aid and support. For they show interest only in men of great learning, whom they keep company without being asked. Whereas I and those like me, being ignorant, are by them held in strange abhorrence. Thus in this book, as in everything I utter, I resemble the wretched chattering daughters of Pyrrhus, the principal enemies of those 9 excellent sisters who live on Mount Parnassus. Moreover, the Muses consider themselves demeaned if they are introduced into base and low works, as they attend only upon very lofty and sublime styles, written by great and brave poets and orators. If I had served them in my tender youth, they would now come to my aid and assistance, as they do to their other servants. But I cared not for them, and did not appreciate them, and thus they do not appreciate or care for me. Now indeed I should like to charm them, but knowing that they would laugh and mock at me, I choose silence. Thus, since I cannot help myself with the gifts of their grace, with humble and low speech I will proceed as best I can to this 3rd and last book, which is somewhat more complex than the first 2, since in this one there will be some poetic fictions and transformations expressed not as the matter demands, but rather grossly and crudely, which is all that I can do. It is true that this noble and valorous knight with whom the present book is concerned was not a great captain or a great warrior or conqueror, as for instance Alexander, Caesar, Hannibal, Pyrrhus, Scipio, or many others who by their industry combined with chivalry conquered in some cases almost the whole world, in others large areas or parts of it. But I have not found in that little I have read, however hard I have sought, that any of those I have named took part in so many and such closely fought hand-to-hand combats, judicial duels and tournaments, with so many and such valiant knights as Curial encountered. I have often heard and also read about the labours of him who in his day was the strongest of knights, the son of Jupiter and Alcmene, who slew giants, lions and serpents, and destroyed monsters which he pursued to the ends of the earth. And also about Jason, who, according to poetic fictions, like him tamed bulls, slew serpents, sowed teeth from which soldiers were born, and killed many men in battle. It will perhaps be said that Hector killed many strong, valiant knights, and valiant kings and great knights in battle, and was never defeated by any knight who fought with him. But nevertheless, being neither vanquished nor subdued in battle, he died by misadventure, through fortune's fell design. To that I answer that it is true that Hector, in battles in which many took part, was the best knight in the world as long as he lived. And it is true that he willingly agreed to do battle in single combat with Achilles, and that it was not his fault that it did not come about. But I have never heard or read or learnt that he or any of the others I have mentioned entered the lists or an enclosed field, the ceremonies of which are terrible and awesome, with any knight equal to himself, with similar arms, offensive and defensive, having entered which he might leave only victorious or dead. I think that these I have named, and many others of those times, who could also be named, would have accepted to enter the lists if they could not have settled their contests without doing so. But that is speculation, whereas Curial, as you will have seen in the past 2 books, did so many times. The argument for one who could is one thing, but the argument for one who did is quite another. We shall not blame him who has not done, but would do if the case arose, but let us not also pass over or conceal him who has done it not once but many times, for that would not be fair. Similarly, if Fortune, who was willing for Curial and the knights he fought in single combat to enter the lists, had given him military commands like she gave to those others we have mentioned, he by his victories would have become a great conqueror and a knight of outstanding fame and renown, because conquests increase fame, while the lists increase prowess and strength. In conclusion then, since the most stringent and most extreme test of military deeds is in the lists, in which Curial, not of his own seeking, but rather being sought there, performed more than any other, let us not call his acts of valour unworthy to be recorded with admiration. If they had happened to have been written by Livy or Virgil or Statius or some other great poet or orator, they would have been read, remembered, and held in high esteem by men of venerable learning. For the writers would have, as they say, gilded with fiction the silver deeds, and if peradventure they had been golden deeds, they would have increased the carats of that gold with the help of the 9 companions of Apollo I mentioned, with the loftiness of a sublime and marvellous style. So let us continue the account which we have begun of the life of our knight.